All right, Tim, you got some splaining to do.
Dude, what's going on? Most people think that this is water. This is not water, not in today's marketplace.
Does
It's
that make it
crazy.
all? Does that make it all go away?
Is it half full or is it half empty? That's the crazy part. You know what I'm talking about?
This is what I drink to make it all go
There you
away.
go. I'm with you. Well, I tell you what's going away. Brian, interest rates. What the heck is going on, man? Going up again, brother.
Yeah, I know. So they just came out and said the Fed's going to drop rates, and everybody sort of just hops on and says, "Hey, it's all going to be fine. Rates are going down. It's like we're all going back to normal." And I would
It's
say
already
that,
done.
well, I would say that I've been hearing the same version of the same story in all these different facets for years. So kind of
Yep.
going all the way back to 2009 when I started in the mortgage business, closed my first loan, and I was telling everybody because they were saying this, rates are going to go back to seven because they had been seven right before that.
Right.
So it was like, listen, they're 5.5. It's great. Like get in while they're good. And then they went to like 5.25. Then they went to five, then 4.7. And they stayed at like 4.7 to 5.5 for years. And all we kept hearing was, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like the normal interest rate for mortgages for the longest time was like 6, 7, 8. And we all kept thinking that rates were going to go back. So it was always this urgency to get in before the rates go back up. And then I felt like a fool because 6 months later, rates went down. Like, guys, get in while it's good. Rates go. So then it ends up going all the way down to like 2.75%. And then it's like, get in while they're good. And then finally, that all came true. Rates go up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now here we are again. They're saying rates are going to go back down. Like, I can tell you for the past 2 years, ever since rates went over five, like, oh, well, the Fed's going to do this in the end of the year. We're going to see rates back at 4.5 and 5.5. We've never seen any of that. And then the last thing, and this one was actually in the news from the Fed or from like the people that were not predicting mortgage rates, were saying the Fed's going to drop rates this year. So everybody's like, all right, great, let's hang tight. Let's wait for the rates to go down. And then, you called me this morning. Rates went up 0.5%. Is it today? Just today?
Yeah. Actually, it depends. I mean, yeah. So today the Maryland Mortgage Program went up pretty substantially. We saw that this morning at 10:30. I sent you the numbers. I was like, Brian, yeesh, right? And then watching the bond market and what's happened is, remember, we're all trying to get some insight on what the Feds are going to do. It's all prediction, Brian. That's all it is. We're trying to predict the future, if you will.
But
And
didn't
and
the
the
Fed
Feds,
say this? Like, wasn't this sort of like they said, okay, didn't they say we're going to stop dropping rates or we're going to consider dropping rates? Like, we didn't make this up, right?
what they said was we will consider dropping rates when inflationary comes into play, right? Into where they want to be. Well, we got news this morning. Inflation was not our friend. It went the opposite direction. Everything is going up again in price. The news that came out on the wire was, hey, CPI is up, everything is up. And so the Feds have backed off saying, hey, it's going to probably be a lot longer before we start cutting rates. And so everybody's trying to figure out what the heck's going on along those lines. And that's critical. It just is. So we're trying to figure out when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen? I believe it's going to happen. There's no question about it. But you're right.
I mean,
Nobody
the
can
odds
predict the
are at some
market.
point Feds will cut rates. Statistically speaking, they have to because they can't only increase them forever because they would get to
Right.
like so technically like they have to
Yeah,
cut
they
rates at
have
some
to
point.
in essence,
But the
but when?
question is like
Yeah.
how much can you count on it happening within some specific time frame?
Well, here's the thing. We're trying to predict. It's like predicting the stock market. When do you get in? When do you get out? Right? Or it's like anything else. When do you plant a tree? Yesterday, right? The same thing has to do with housing, Brian. I mean, it's the same principle. When do you lock in your rate? When it meets and when you can make the payments, when it meets your budget, when it's realistic. That's what it comes down to, right?
That's good
You don't ever
advice,
want to
Tim.
bet on the rates per se. I'm trying to get out of where I was before.
That's good advice. Like at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen.
No,
You have
we
to make a
don't. We
decision
don't.
based on your individual situation.
That's
And
correct.
you and I also know most people don't actually sit down
Nope.
at a table and say, okay, I have a 18-month window to buy a home and
Yep.
I'm going to base my decision on rates in 9 months from now because I read an article and they're going to wait 9 months and buy a house. That's really not how it happens. Like I don't know anybody who's ever done that.
And here's the key, Brian. We're all talking about competitiveness, talking about the market being so challenging. And I pulled the stats up, this morning. Southern Maryland up 9.9%, Brian, medium sale price, almost 10% year over year, up 9.9%. Now watch this. While the new active listings down 16.8%. And if you're waiting for that crash, Brian, first, you can't time it, number one. Number two, nobody knows when anything's going to happen. All we can tell you right now is you want to buy a home that, like we talked about before, is going to work for your needs. That's all it comes down to, right?
Yeah, that's the other kind of silly thing that we hear all the time is when the market's going to crash. And that's also not happening. But I think we can argue that rates will at some point fluctuate, but I would bet on rates going down before you see a market crash, like 100-1 odds.
I would
bet you $100 to your dollar that before you see a market crash, you'll see rates come down. Anybody who wants to take that bet, call me.
And when rates come down, what's going to happen to the market? It's going to stimulate right back up. I mean, it's the sad part is there's not enough inventory. The sad part is it's a definitely unique marketplace. And the craziness is affordability is really the key. And you've got to be in preparation to be able to buy and be able to snap it up, right?
So if you want to sell a house, you're in a good position. If you want to buy a house, it's situational as to whether or not you're in a good position. But
well, even people that want to sell,
tricky because rates are going up, prices are going up.
Correct. And where the
affordability is going down. So if you're on the buy side of things, it's not a good story. And I can tell you that you can find it. I know you can find it. You'll find some guy saying, end of summer rates in the high fours. Like you could find it, but I don't trust it. And I'm telling you, I've been at this for like 15 years. They've been saying that the whole time. You don't know. Theoretically, rates could go up to 7% in the next couple of days, and that wouldn't be crazy. They could go up to 8%. They went to 8% in November.
Wasn't a great Thanksgiving, I can tell you. At my house, we had to slaughter our own turkey. It was crazy. It really was. Get out there, poor Miss Wheezy.
Tim's not joking. Tim actually has turkeys. Like Tim is a real farmer, right?
Yeah,
Tim?
I do have some turkeys.
Yeah,
and goats and chickens. Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But I'm not preparing for anything crazy. But realistic, Brian, I think it's what it comes down to. It's the marketplace. There is no way of predicting where rates are going to be. And and you and I both know rates go up, people stop buying houses. And that's kind of a win-win. So there's an opportunity out there. It's just like people are buying homes right now that need work. They're doing renovation loans. I mean, they're buying homes that need a little tender loving care because they can see. And remember, you've always told me this, perception, right?
Yeah.
It's always where you perceive you are today.
It's also just somewhat people's reality. So the reality is it's very hard to buy a home as far as affordability is concerned, and it's only going in the wrong direction. So I would say overall, Tim, glass half full or empty, this is at least some negative news because the number of houses is down, rates are up, prices are up. It's great if you're in the house selling business as far as like you own property. That would be a good place to be. Would be a good place to be if you but I'm saying if you want to find a property, I'm sorry, but if you want some good advice, call Tim and I. We'll definitely put you in the best position, but it's a tough situation. So let me ask you this: do you have any indication that there is any better days in the mid to near future?
Yeah, I think July.
Not personally, but the housing
yeah.
market. Like I know maybe the chickens are getting ready to have their eggs or whatever it is, but I'm saying, like, have you read anything recently that says, guess what, guys, it's going to get better. Here's why. I need some hope, Tim.
You know what? First of all, we talked about this earlier, that glass being half full or half empty, right? It all depends on what's in the glass. We talked about this, right? And that's what it comes down to. So let's talk about the good news and the bad news coming up. Honestly, the good news is rates go up, the sales do slow down. There's more opportunity. I think there's more opportunity out there for houses that need tender loving care, and people don't have the perception or the ability to buy that way. You know what I mean? So we are seeing that as an opportunity, and we are starting to see if the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac houses going on the market. We are starting to get HUD sales. I mean, here I just got a HUD contract the other day. So the sales are starting to happen.
So what you're saying, Tim, is I'm going to just read between the lines. It's not going to get any better. So go buy yourself a piece of crap house.
Go buy a home that you can make your dream come true, Brian. Come on, man. You know that. We've always believed that.
Go buy
too.
a turd and then hope that you can find somebody to put new floors in it. That's what you're saying.
Do you know turds can become, let's face it, the fertilizer, and fertilizer is good for the earth, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, Tim. Like, that is the way to go. If I was buying a house today, I'd be buying a house that needs some work.
Yeah.
All day long.
So back to the story. The answer is yes, there's opportunities. Yes, there's housing out there. Yes, you do have to have a different perception about what's available. Yes, you do have to push the limits. Yes, you do have to make sure it fits within your budget. It's all it comes down to.
All right. Can you throw out some government numbers? Have you heard or read anything that can give us some sort of indication of what's coming up?
Yeah, I saw an article the other day that said 85% of the American population does not believe today is a good day to buy a house.
Really? You know why? Because everybody has very short-term perception. They have no idea that it's only going to get worse.
Now, the other article that I read, which I think was from the National Association of Realtors, that said a house priced $100,000 in 1994 is worth $400,000 today, a 400% increase. So what you just said nails it. It's all perception. It's all going from a short-term reality to a long-term reality and recognizing the values are going to continue going up. Inventory is not going to pop over rate.
But I'm talking about like the economy, the rates, the house prices. Like, is there any? Do you have anything
out there, man?
Nothing.
I wish there was, brother.
You got nothing, Tim. You got nothing.
Not today. Not today. I'm searching. All I know is I got the January statistics, and I was just blown away by the numbers. I was like, "Oh my God, you're kidding me! This is just
prices are up. That's good. Is that like Maryland, Southern Maryland?
Yeah, I'll send them to you. That's the January 24 housing report and the Southern Maryland housing report taken from the Bright system, which is the multiple list system, which, by the way, is inaccurate because it does not reflect all of the new construction.
Yeah.
Which
I got you.
You pile that in, Brian. It's massive, man. It really is.
Well, I just got invited to an open house for a builder in I think it was Upper Marlboro. They opened in 2 neighborhoods.
What's the starting price?
Yeah, guess.
$850,000.
That's exactly in the middle. There's 2 neighborhoods. One starts at $750. The other one starts at 1.1. Starts at 1.1.
Can I throw something to you that might blow your mind away? You ready for this one? And this will.
You'll
look at this and you'll say, "What the hell?" Okay. And so this is what I'm going to throw to you. And by the way, I sent you those stats just so you had them on hand. This is what amazes me the most. You ready? The federal government recognized that prices are going to continue going up. Do you know why I say that? Because they raised the loan limits. They raised the loan limits, okay, to 1.149. Brian, an FHA loan in Washington, D.C. for $1,150,000. That's the loan. That's not even the sale price.
People don't even know what that means. But like, just to kind of give you an idea, like all the government loans are subsidized. So basically, like there's some protection that the government's giving you.
Correct.
And allowing you to put 3.5% down. And just to kind of give you a little like context, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, St. Mary's County, the limit that you could do an FHA, which 3.5% down, was like $345,000, right?
Correct. Exactly right. St. Mary's County right now is $498,000.
$498 now.
Yep.
And it's $1 million plus. What'd you say in Washington, D.C.?
So Charles, Calvert, Prince George's, Northern Virginia, Montgomery County, that DC metropolitan area, it's $1,149,000. The government recognizes prices are going to continue going up. Okay.
All right. Well, that's the good news. If you bought a house yesterday, it's worth more today.
And the government has already said, and it's going to be worth more tomorrow.
Well, I would agree with you on that. So there's the
Yeah.
silver lining. Whatever you buy today will likely be worth more tomorrow. In 10 years, I can't tell you. There is no crash coming in anybody's forecast. So get
You know,
in,
I also
get
saw
in while the
another
getting is
article
good.
that said in the last 40 years, we've only had one downturn in values in the entire 40 years. And that was in 2008 after the
Really?
Great Recession. That's the only time we've ever had values go down nationally for a year. I saw
How
that the
much?
other
Oh,
day
are
as
you
well.
saying nationally for a year over year?
National year over
Because I
year. The
was
only
going to
time we
say
ever
we've
saw it.
seen like little dips.
Oh wait,
Okay,
oh
that's
wait, when it
wild.
flipped into the 08 recession, that's the only time. So when you start looking at those statistics and you start realizing values still going up, number one, right? See, people are calling right now. They're saying, "Hey, we're
Tim,
ready
my
to
phone's not
buy,
ringing like
man."
yours, bro.
Damn, I'm like, shoo. But my point is when the government has set higher loan limits, when there's less inventory out there, when they're raising, all of the numbers and the perception, when we're seeing the values continue going up. And remember, ultimately, Baron von Rothschild. And what did he say?
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to Baron von
Yeah.
Rothschild. He's one of my favorites. Like he has some very wise quotes. It's
And he's
old.
been dead
You
for
know what I
years,
say? Like you know
right?
what old Varon would say about that? Like old Varon, you know what he would say? What would he say to him?
He said, "You buy when there's blood in the streets."
You buy when there's
And
blood in the streets.
that means you buy when and when else is buying. And so from a real estate standpoint, if 85% of the population says don't buy, that's when you buy.
Oh, that's
That's
your
when you
thought.
take advantage of the marketplace, man. That's just my point. So what do I think? I think values are going to continue going up. I think interest rates are going to come down, but nobody can tell you the exact day or time. We don't have a direct tap in. We know the presidential election's around the corner. We know that we're probably in a recession. When the price of gasoline in Virginia goes from $2.98 to $3.35 in a single day, that's a good indication that things are not exactly right. Right? I mean, think
The
about it.
stock market does the same thing. I don't know. I mean, to me, like you can also use that same analogy for gas prices. Like in 1994, gas prices were probably, well, maybe they were $1. Maybe they were. But
That's
I
back
mean,
in the day.
94 is like not that far away. So I would say they've been in the $3 to $4 range for a long time. They're not $5 to $6. So I
Well,
don't
actually,
know.
the average interest rate for the last 40 years is 7.4%.
Right. But the average house
So
price, the affordability index is really what you got to look at. Like how
correct.
much
And the
the
price,
income
yeah,
per mortgage payment, what the gap is. It's the
yeah,
highest it's ever been in our lifetime.
it is. And
There you
that's the
go.
challenge. But you and I have also both know we're coming off that high of 2020 and 2021 when, you know what, buying a house, man, it was like engine fuel. Just like,
Yeah, anybody can buy a house. You could buy like a
exactly.
super nice house for $2,000 a month for
And
sure.
that's what it tells you. It says buying a house still, it's a privilege, Brian. I mean, you still got to bust your tail. We talked about this.
We
You
did.
know
We
what?
did.
There's no free house. And by the way, the average price of gasoline was $1.17 in 1994. I looked it up, man.
Yeah,
I
I
like
mean, I would say that
stats.
like it's like what 35% of your income is about what it is. So you could like work 35% of your time and afford something that has air conditioning, heat, insulation, protection from the elements, like
Remember,
all
I
these
don't
rooms
have air
in it and
conditioning,
kitchens. It has
right?
like stoves in it and washing machines and lights. Like you get all of that for 35% of your income. And most people work like in air conditioning. So it's really not that bad, Tim. There you go. That's the
That's my
final
point.
answer.
All right, man. Sounds like a plan, brother.
All right, Tim. Appreciate you, brother.
Catch up with you, man.